We should work together, Bourne. You exposed the Blackbriar program. We both after the same thing, right? We both want to take down the corrupt institutions that control society.
I'm not on your side.
And that's a clip from Jason Bourne. I'm delighted to say that Matt Damon is with us on the programme, and Paul Greengrass has insisted on
crashing the interview.
crashing in on
Wouldn't
the interview
miss it for the
one
world.
more time. How are you, Paul?
I'm very good.
It's very good to see you, sir.
Come on, ask us why we did the Jason Bourne.
You're the only one we can say this to.
I know. So this goes back a number of years, actually, but it has become sort of running joke. So now I'm going to ask Matt. So Matt, it's been 6 years or something? No, it's been 2000. It's been 9
years. 10 years.
So how come you've made a new Bourne film?
Well, Paul, you can tell him. I mean, this is
When
I believe we
on your
announced
show,
it on your show.
We did. We said
in 2007.
we could not possibly make another Bourne movie unless your team Tottenham qualified for Champions League. As soon as they did, because we
were
are
off.
men of our word.
Yeah.
We went and made a Jason Bourne movie.
So you've moved very fast because obviously we only qualified, the end of last season. So you've made this movie very quickly.
Yeah,
Very quickly.
just a couple of months.
That's amazing. How
Well, he
fast-
called me. He said, I have an idea, and it's good because Tottenham's looking, it's looking pretty promising. I think we got to start now.
Yeah.
So and when we did,
It was looking pretty good.
Yeah.
You must have been following Tottenham's record a lot over the last few years, thinking,
Well,
are we
it's-
going to go again?
yeah, because I mean, it had obviously
We pissed ourselves
major.
laughing when you came third on the last day of the season.
Yeah. When you say we, are you speaking as a Chelsea fan or a Palace
No, a
fan?
Palace fan.
If you're going to decide whether to make another one,
Simon.
it could be, if Chelsea get into the Champions League,
Could
maybe
be.
you should make another one.
Could be.
What do you
could be.
think?
I don't know about that. I don't know about if Palace get in there, because then I'm sure that we won't get there for quite a while.
Okay, just on the title, Jason Bourne, were there other titles that you were running with, or was Jason Bourne always going to be the...
I mean, there was a list that went out. I think a large list. I mean, they paid their whole marketing department. Everybody threw one in the hat. I think, but because the whole first three movies are about this guy trying to figure out who he is, and he finally gets this identity, and then rids himself of the identity. You find him at the beginning of this movie, kind of living out on the margins, and and this question of is he going to reclaim this identity, this central question of Jason Bourne, because obviously that's not really his name.
So what has he been doing since the last movie?
Well, what Paul said to me at the outset was, look, because we had a perfect ending for the third one, which he's liberated from this identity, he swims away kind of off into the sunset. And if you're going to resurrect the franchise at that point, you have to believe, Paul said to me, that 5 minutes after he got free, things started going bad for him, and he was haunted by what he'd done, and he couldn't escape, the life he'd lived. And so where we find him is in a dark place, 10 years later, we find him in this, on the Greek-Macedonia border, fighting for a few bucks. Like he's in a very unresolved place, and that's, I mean, you would have to find him there. As Paul said, if we look at him and he looks like he's been living well, we don't have a movie, and I immediately saw the wisdom in that.
Yeah. So had you been?
Thankfully, I didn't have to work out, so it was all right.
Have
in the context of telling me that I had to lose a lot of weight and get in shape.
It's one of the few perks of being the director.
So was he in a bad way? Was he in bad shape?
No,
then?
he's always in fantastic
I know,
shape.
that's every
But
movie
on
we-
a serious. No, the serious answer is, listen, he's always in great shape. But there's a sort of shape you've got to be in if you're Jason Bourne. That's a different, because we have to believe, as Matt says, that he's had 10 tormented years. That's a different kind of. You can't act that stuff. Your body's got to tell that story. And also, we haven't done one of these movies for quite some years, and we didn't. I think neither of us thought we were going to do it. But when you come back, well, why are you coming back? You're coming back because you think that you've got another chapter in that story to tell. But you're very aware, all of us were very aware, that there's a bar, that those films are, people love those movies, the first three, and therefore the audience is going to have expectations. And so the fear you have is, can we meet those expectations? Can we be as good again? And you're not going to do that unless you turn up with deadly seriousness, all of us, and work to the nth degree to make it good, as opposed to just turning up and going through the motions. That was the statement of intent for him, for all of us,
Was there a point for both of you that you were almost like waiting for permission to do another movie? That you knew that you'd done a fantastic trilogy. Everybody loved those movies. You loved going there, but did you need permission to make another one? Did the story need to be strong enough? What was it?
No, we needed to believe there was a story and a reason to make it. And we did say, look, it'll be easier in a decade if we just let the world change, and then have a discussion about whether or not we want to see Jason Bourne in this new world. It'll be clear whether there's a movie there or not. Because certainly right after Ultimatum, there wasn't anywhere to go. So we needed that time to pass, I think.
And do you feel the world has changed enough in kind of espionage and intelligence?
Yeah, the last one came out in 2007. I mean, think about what's happened.
It was amazing to me. I mean, I was sceptical. I must be honest. But once we started, it was extraordinary to me how much the world had changed. When you actually sit and say, well, what's different from 2007? You actually start making a list. There were no social media companies to speak of in 2007. That's in the last decade. You've had these gigantic corporations that kind of bestride the globe, literally bestride the globe. They didn't exist. You didn't have the, anonymous Julian Assange, Snowden, the sort of countervailing oppositional force out there, which has great power, you didn't have the whole cyber arena. That didn't exist. I mean, the whole landscape that we operate in our lives is very, very different. I think the nature of the feeling of threat that people have in their everyday life is all very different.
There's a sequence very early on, which a lot of people have mentioned, but I just want to mention the motorbike chase going through the anti-austerity, right? Because it seems to me in that moment, everybody instantly thinks this is Bourne. Only Bourne does this. That here you have something, we've all seen images of the anti-austerity. We know what's happening in Athens, into which you now have this extraordinary high-octane chase which you're developing. I mean, it's an astonishing, it's almost like the end, you're thinking, if the movie ends now, that's fine. I know we've only been going 20 minutes, but it's an astonishing sequence. Was it tough to film? I mean, can you both just give us a few flavors about what that was like to do that sequence?
Paul Greengrass can shoot a protest. I mean, let's be fair. I mean, he covered a lot of them, and he's been in the middle of them and knows what they look like and knows how to make them real. And we had 4 weeks of night shooting in Tenerife in the Canary Islands, and we had awesome extras, background actors, 500 of them or so, who learned Greek chants and who, it's very hard to keep people's energy up all night long, night after night. And these guys really just brought unbelievable energy, and with the Molotov cocktails, just over and over again, night after night. And it just elevated the whole thing. That's where we started shooting, and that was the first sequence we shot. And I'm really happy with it. But from the planning all the way through its execution. Paul called me very early on and said, "I want to start it in Greece." He said, "This is before any of the austerity stuff." He said that place is going to kick off, and that's where and so that's just the mentality of our writer director. And that's what makes Bourne special. Is he's as a franchise, he travels through the world that we're all living in.
How did you write that, Paul? How do you write a motorcycle chase?
Well, this one I wrote with Chris Rouse, who obviously is a very close collaborator of ours, and he's cut all the Bourne films. And is a huge, co-author of the franchise for sure. And well, the truth is, it takes a long time. You have to have the idea first. You sort of have to have an idea. Well, what can we do that's new? What can we do in terms of an action sequence that's fresh and new and feels alive, and also we're coming back after a long time away. You want to make a statement of intent.
Well, you certainly succeeded in that.
Yeah, but then you've got to sit down and plan it meticulously, and it's like going through the gears in a sequence, and you've got to work out how you get to each level and then how you develop to the next level until finally you build the pace, because that's a whole long 12 or 14 minute sequence culminating in the bike thing, and then there are all sorts of decisions. Is it cars? Is it bikes? Is it bike and car?
These are long takes, presumably, in the classic Greengrass style.
You get a brilliant second unit director, Simon Crane, who does a lot of specialist vehicle work, and great stunt coordinator, Gary Powell. And as a team, you then start to push the envelope for what's possible at speed. Tenerife, as Matt was saying, it was a superb, but we were one of the very first films. I don't think we were literally the first. We were certainly one of the first films to shoot there, and it's a fantastic place to shoot because they gave us such tremendous run of the city, because we were making an immense amount of noise for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. And
if you employ half the town, then that's
but then you have to plan it meticulously. Safety is a huge issue in something like that, where you've got motorbike. Just worrying about Matt and Julia and Vincent. But
what were you worried about as far as Matt's concerned?
Well, anything that involves putting actors on vehicles or on motorbikes particularly is a real issue. But then, as well as that, you've got fast vehicles and motorbikes interacting with crowds. That's also highly, highly dangerous. So more of your time when you're making a film is thought, considering safety issues. It's your number one fear, concern, preoccupation, and professional requirement.
Matt, and in that, and while that's what Paul is thinking, what is your number one concern?
Safety. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, what can go wrong? Is this dangerous? And luckily, as Paul said, with Simon and Gary, these are incredibly conscientious people and very, very, very good at what they do. And Gary's safety would always be his first.
And Chris Carreras.
And Chris as well, our first AD.
Who's just a man of immense experience, one of the great ADs of the world, you have to see him in action to believe what can be done to wrangle 500-600 people all night with vehicles. The organisational, logistical imperatives are enormous,
And if that was the first thing that you did, if that's the first building block of this story, you must have felt fantastic coming out of it, thinking. Obviously you hadn't seen what it looked like, but you think, okay, this is great. This is classic Bourne straight away.
Yeah, it just thematically it all felt right, and I think we left Tenerife feeling like we got that sequence. Like it was a perfect way to launch.
Mm. And does that make you think, Paul, that you're going to be? I can't imagine that you're not going to be working together again on whatever the project is. You guys clearly have a fabulous relationship.
Yeah, without
together.
We're always looking for stuff. Yeah, definitely.
We will.
And it's obviously football to one side, but you would expect to be working again?
I do hope to work again, yeah.
With Paul?
What
I'm saying, what do we see you in next?
I'll do anything with Paul, anything, and I'm always looking for stuff to do. He I begged him to be in United 93, and he said, no, I don't want anybody. I don't want any faces that are famous. That would get in the way of what I'm trying to do. But I try to beg my way into anything he's making. Yeah.
Do we know what you're doing
nice,
next? He's nice. He's a nice guy.
He went slumming with that Tom Hanks guy for Captain Phillips. I'll never forgive him for that. But
I don't know what I'm going to do next, actually. I'm going to go on holiday, it's honestly the truth, and consider the Palace transfer targets.
Yeah. How's
Get
that
the
look?
lad Benteke in. I'm
Yeah.
feeling like top six, isn't
did
it?
he sign?
Well, he's apparently signing today.
Is that right?
No, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm thinking about a few things, and I mean, literally, we've just finished this. It's sort of, and then you have the nerve-wracking period of seeing if it's going to work. I've never seen it in front of an audience.
Okay, well, let me tell you, and you know very well it's going to work. It's fantastic.
Believe me, when you've made them, you don't know. You hope, and I can believe that we're okay. But you know, it's like when I see young filmmakers, I say there's only one thing when you're making a film you need to concern yourself about. It's like the inner question. It's like if you're piloting an airplane. Are we flying? Aviate. You've got to aviate. You've got to be flying. Otherwise, you're in trouble. Are you all right? If you're not all right, then you've got to run through the checklist of what to do about it. But if you're all right, there's nothing you need to know or can know beyond all right. And it's like that with a film. I think we're all right, but whether it'll work, I don't know.
Well, you're all right, and it's going to work. Paul and Matt, thank you as ever. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you.